I still remember the exact second my daughter stopped smiling. She didn't scream or cry. She looked up at me and whispered, "Mom, did we do something wrong?" That question cut deeper than any insult could have, because a grown adult had made a deliberate decision that my children weren't worth including. A few hours later, my husband stood in front of my family. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue or demand. He pulled out his phone and said something that didn't just end a birthday party. It quietly dismantled a business deal, a reputation, and a lie my family had been carefully protecting for years. None of them had any idea what they had just set in motion that afternoon. My name is Renee. I'm in my early 30s, married with 2 kids who still believe the world is mostly fair as long as someone explains things to them carefully enough. I work in operations management, long hours, steady pressure, the kind of role where you spend most of your time solving problems that belong to everyone else. At home, I try to keep things grounded. Dinner at the table, homework spread across the kitchen counter, a house that feels safe even when everything outside of it isn't. That Tuesday evening I was in the kitchen stirring pasta sauce, the smell of garlic warming the whole room. My daughter was drawing at the table, completely absorbed. My son was lining up toy cars by color on the floor with the focused intensity of someone conducting important research. My husband Marcus wasn't home yet. He worked late most nights, but he always made it back in time to put the kids to bed. That's when my phone rang. Diane, my older sister, had a way of calling, like she already assumed the answer would be yes. Bright voice, fast pace, like being included was a favor she was generously extending to you. "Chloe turns 8 next month," she said. "We're throwing a big party at that new venue downtown. You know, the one everyone's been talking about." I smiled automatically. That sounds wonderful. The kids will love it. There was a pause. Not long. Just long enough to mean something. "Well," she said, "we're actually keeping it a bit smaller this year. Close family and Chloe's school friends. Just that particular crowd." I turned the stove down. "Okay, what does that mean exactly?" "It means you and Marcus are invited, obviously. But we're not really doing the full cousin thing this time around." The words landed strangely heavy and slippery at once. "My kids," I said. She sighed, like I was turning something simple into something unnecessarily complicated. "Chloe wants it to feel more grown up. Fewer small children running around. It's her special day." My daughter looked up from her drawing just then, smiling at me, holding up the page to show me what she'd made. I swallowed. "They're her cousins," I said quietly. "They adore her. And I adore you," Diane answered, her tone smooth and practiced and completely certain. "But this is what we decided." "Decided?" I told her that if my children weren't invited, Marcus and I wouldn't be coming either. She laughed it off, warned me that our mother wouldn't be pleased, and hung up before I could say another word. That night, after the kids were asleep, I told Marcus everything. He sat on the edge of the bed and listened without interrupting once. When I finished, he nodded once and said, "Then we're not going." At the time, I thought that was the end of it. I had no idea. It was only the very beginning. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It seeped in through the small things. First, a family group message lighting up my phone while I was at work, photos of balloon color options, a debate about catering choices, everyone chatting as if nothing had happened. I didn't respond. 2 days later, my mother called. She always did when the silence started making her uncomfortable. "Diane says you're not coming to Chloe's party," she said, her voice already halfway to disappointment before I even spoke. "What's going on?" I explained it slowly and carefully, the way you do when you're genuinely hoping someone will hear the part that matters most. There was a pause. Then the answer I had already expected. "It's Diane's choice. It's her daughter's birthday. You can't expect her to include everyone." "I'm not expecting anything," I said. "I'm choosing not to attend an event where my children are deliberately left out." "You're blowing this completely out of proportion," she replied. "Just come. The kids won't even notice they were excluded." "They will," I said. "They'll notice when every other grandchild is there except for them." She sighed heavily. "You're being stubborn." "I'm being their mother." We ended the call without resolving a single thing between us. After that, the pressure started arriving from everywhere at once. My brother texted asking if there was drama. I gave him the short version. He said he understood, but was still bringing his own kids because he didn't want to cause unnecessary waves. A handful of aunts chimed in with their thoughts about family unity and not letting small things damage relationships that mattered. Small things. I kept replaying Diane's voice in my head, calm, certain, like she hadn't said anything remotely unkind at all. Marcus noticed the shift in me before I said anything more about it. He started coming home earlier, watching more carefully, asking fewer direct questions. That was how he was when something felt wrong to him. Quiet and alert. The week before the party, my mother called again with a softer approach. Chloe would be so sad if you weren't there, she said. People will wonder and ask questions. They can wonder, I replied. I'm not going to stand around explaining why my children weren't invited in the first place. Well, maybe you should, she said, so people don't get entirely the wrong impression. I almost laughed. The wrong impression about what exactly? That I was difficult. That I didn't know my place in the family. That I couldn't gracefully take a hint when it was being offered to me. The morning before the party, Diane sent a cheerful update in the family chat about the start time, the dress code, and the parking situation. A smiling emoji at the very end, like that one gesture, smoothed over everything that had come before it. I set the phone down on the counter and just watched my kids playing on the floor. My daughter was teaching her little brother a game she had invented entirely on her own. He kept getting the rules wrong, and she kept patiently correcting him, never once raising her voice. They had no idea what was happening around them. That was the part that tightened my chest the most. That night Marcus asked if I was all right. I am, I said, after a moment. But tomorrow might not be. He nodded quietly. Then we'll handle tomorrow when it gets here. I believed him completely. I just didn't know how fast it would arrive or how much everything would change the moment our children understood what had actually happened to them. The morning of the party came in bright and clear. The kind of day that feels almost dishonest when you're carrying something this heavy. Marcus suggested we take the kids somewhere distracting, somewhere loud and full of color and movement. We chose the aquarium in the city, their absolute favorite place, where everything glows in shades of blue and nothing feels urgent. At first it worked. My son pressed his face flat against the glass, watching a stingray drift past like a slow-moving shadow. My daughter laughed loudly when a penguin waddled close enough that her ponytail bounced with every step it took. I told myself we had made exactly the right call, that we had protected them from something they didn't need to feel. Then my daughter tugged my sleeve softly. Mom, she said, is today Chloe's birthday? The question landed like something dropped and shattered on tile. Marcus's hand tightened on our son's shoulder. How do you know about that, sweetheart? I asked carefully. Grandma told me, she said simply. She asked what dress I was going to wear to the party. Of course she did. I knelt down so we were directly eye to eye. The low hum of the tanks filled the space between us. We're not going to that party, I said, choosing each word carefully. Her smile faded. Why not? I searched for the words that wouldn't break something in her. Words that wouldn't teach her the wrong lesson about what she was worth or who decided it. Sometimes, I said slowly, parties are just for certain people. She blinked, thinking, but I'm her cousin. I know, I said. My throat tightened around the words. Her eyes filled quietly and fast, the way children cry when they're trying hard not to. Does Aunt Diane not like us? My son started crying before I could answer. Big hiccuping sobs that bounced off the glass around us. Marcus picked him up immediately and pressed his own forehead gently against his son's. We're going home, he said. The drive back was almost entirely silent, except for the small sounds coming from the back seat. I kept my eyes on the road because I knew that if I looked in the mirror, I would fall apart. When we got home, I put a movie on and handed out snacks like they were bandages for something that couldn't be reached. The kids curled up together and slowly drifted back toward normal, the way children always do. I couldn't. Marcus went into the office. I could hear his voice through the closed door, low and controlled, not angry. That was the part that frightened me most. An hour later, my phone began buzzing and didn't stop. My mother, my brother, Diane. I walked to the office and stood in the doorway. Marcus looked up at me with the kind of expression that arrives only after a decision has already been made and sent. They made our children cry, he said. That's not something I'm willing to leave alone. That was the moment I understood something clearly for the first time. Staying quiet hadn't protected anyone. It had only postponed what was coming. And whatever was approaching next was not going to be gentle. I didn't ask Marcus what he had done right away. I could tell by how he was sitting shoulders squared, phone placed face down on the desk that whatever was in motion was already too far along to stop. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't venting. He was still in the particular way that only comes after someone crosses a line you never actually intended to forgive. What did you do? I asked quietly. He turned the screen toward me. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Just a chain of professional emails, short and careful, subject lines about meetings and timelines and contract approvals. The kind of correspondence most people scan without fully reading. Diane's husband has been trying to close a major contract, Marcus said. It's been in progress for several months now. I knew that much. Diane had mentioned it more than once, always framing it as the thing that would finally give their family real stability and breathing room. Better house, better schools for Chloe, less financial pressure. It was the reason she had seemed so tense lately. The reason everything she touched felt like it carried slightly too much weight. What does that have to do with us? I asked. Marcus looked at me steadily. I'm the person who decides whether that contract moves forward. The room felt suddenly smaller and closer. I didn't know that, I said. You weren't meant to, he replied quietly. Different structures, different names on the paperwork. Most people don't connect the pieces together. I looked at the screen again, this time understanding exactly what I was reading. A decision already made and already sent. You ended it, I said. Yes. My first response wasn't relief. It was fear. Marcus, I said slowly. You didn't do this just because of a party. He shook his head once. I did it because someone decided our children were disposable, and then everyone around us insisted we accept that quietly. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I finally picked up one call. Diane's voice came through sharp and completely stripped of its usual composure. What is going on? She demanded. Ryan just got a call saying the deal is dead. Do you have any idea what you've actually done to us? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't apologize. I know exactly what happened, I said. Marcus made a business decision. This is completely insane, she snapped. Over a birthday party? No, I replied. Over how you chose to treat my children. She scoffed loudly. You're seriously going to destroy our finances because Chloe didn't want small kids running around at her party? They're not small kids, I said. They are your niece and your nephew. That's not the point right now, she shot back. Do you know how competitive things are? That contract was everything for our family. And my children weren't, I said. Silence fell on the line. Then my mother's voice came through, tight and trembling. You've gone too far, Renee. This is punishment. This is revenge. No, I said. This is consequence. You could have worked this out differently, she said. You had options. We tried, I replied. You told me the kids wouldn't even notice. They noticed. Marcus reached over and took my hand in his. Diane's voice shifted, lower and almost unrecognizable. You planned this, didn't you? You knew he had this power. I didn't, I said honestly. But even if I had known, it wouldn't change a single thing that you chose to do. You're ruining everything we were building, she said. I took a slow breath in. You hurt my children, I said. Tell me, which one of us decided that was acceptable? She hung up. The rest of the afternoon broke apart into noise. Relatives, who had been completely quiet, suddenly had strong positions on family unity. Calls I let go unanswered. Messages I let pile up and read. Everyone found an opinion once money entered the conversation. Marcus ignored all of it. He closed his laptop, stood up, and walked into the living room, where our kids were on the floor with blankets and a bowl of popcorn. He sat down with them like nothing else existed. That evening, Diane showed up alone at our front door. She looked tired and somehow smaller than I remembered, like something had quietly gone out of her. Her eyes moved slowly around the house, the way eyes do when someone realizes they had been imagining something wrong for a long time. The kids' drawings taped to the refrigerator. The worn corner of the coffee table. The ordinary life we had built without anyone's approval or assistance. Can we talk? She asked. We sat in the living room, the same room where my children had cried a few hours before. Diane twisted her hands together and didn't quite meet my eyes. I told myself it was just one party, she said. I thought they wouldn't really understand what they were missing. They understood, I said. They asked whether you didn't like them. Her face crumpled. That isn't true. I do like them. Then why did you leave them out? She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was stripped to something raw. Because I was jealous. I didn't interrupt. Your kids are easy, she continued. Everyone notices. Mine has been struggling lately. Tantrums, acting out, always the difficult one. I felt like every family gathering was a comparison. I was losing. I wanted one afternoon where I didn't have to feel that weight. So you put that weight on my children instead, I said. She nodded, tears coming steadily. I didn't think through how it would feel to them. I was wrong. It wasn't an excuse, but it was the truth offered plainly. You owe them an apology, I said. Not me, them directly. I will, she whispered. If you'll let me. That's their decision, I told her. Marcus didn't reconsider. When I asked him later whether he ever would, he shook his head. It isn't about punishment, he said. It's about who I'm willing to work with. I won't build anything with people who think hurting children is negotiable. Diane came back the following week with Chloe. She knelt down in front of my kids and looked them directly in the eyes and apologized without any conditions or qualifications attached to it. Chloe gave them handmade cards and invited them to a small celebration. Just cousins, just cake and balloons, nothing more. My kids forgave immediately, the way children do when they are given something honest to hold on to. The adults were slower. Gatherings changed. Conversations became more careful. Everyone now understood the boundaries, whether they welcomed them or not. I didn't feel victorious when everything settled. I felt clear. For the first time, nobody was asking whether my children were worth protecting. That was enough. If you have ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for the people who matter most to you, you already know that silence isn't neutral. Boundaries don't break families. Pretending you don't need any does. Share where you're listening from below and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.